Okay, a few days off, and we're back at it here on the sheet. Thanks once again for joining me here on this Wednesday, July 30th. We're going to go down to like one, maybe two shows a week all through August, and then ramp back up in September. Those are all the janitorial notes. On to the program now. Glad to be back. Glad to be back in the chair. Glad to be talking to you, whether you're listening on podcast, whether you are watching us on YouTube, either live or in the archives. We very much appreciate it as always. So here's the question. Does this new CBA totally ruin trade deadline? It certainly dents it. I don't know if it wrecks it. Zach, I don't know if you have a thought on this, but Hart Levine's going to stop by from Puckpedia later on, and we'll talk about this CBA and what it has done to trade deadline. Now, it's not going to come into effect for another year, as we know. But one of the things we're wondering about is with the removal of things like double retention, which everybody complained about.
That's when I don't
looking for a problem because we have a solution here. Does anyone have a problem? Because we have a solution. To say nothing of the salary cap in the playoffs as well. We're really wondering what this is going to do to trade deadline. You know, look at how many deals were able to be made at trade deadline just because, you know, there was like double retention and there were things like, salary cap in the playoffs, no such thing. Just get a couple of guys on LTIR and away you go. Make your trades. It's exciting. It's fun. Like, I don't know if it wrecks trade deadline, but again, like it certainly dents it, Zach. It feels like it's going to dent it.
Yeah, on a day that's already pretty quieted down, it pretty much just absolutely killed it. I'm interested to see what happens this year because it's going to be the last season before this is all implemented. Like GMs just go out and they're like, "This is the final shebang. Like, let's go nuts here." I don't think that'll happen, that's like, knowing what the GMs do, but that's fantasy land.
Carolina with Jackson Blake and the and deferring of salaries. It's like, all right, we still got one more shot to do this here. Let's start deferring all these salaries and get the cap hit done. Yeah, I don't know if the GMs decide like we're going to fill our boots here now with double retention and such, but that's going to be interesting. We'll talk to Hart Levine coming up a little bit later on the program. Back from Mexico, and you know what I found? I could not find hockey. Remember how last time when we were together, I said, you know what? There's hockey everywhere. Oh, Zach, you just have to look. Mm-hmm. We were in Cancun for a week, and like there was one kid at the gym who I just think he was there with his dad who had a Philadelphia Flyers shirt. That was about it.
Okay.
I thought I saw
for hockey.
I did because you know me. Like I'm looking under every teapot trying to find something that's hockey. No, nothing. So was the land hockey forgot.
Were you at a resort?
No, we were at a resort, and my kids play a lot of golf now. So I was a caddy for 4 days.
Okay, because you don't play golf.
I told you, man. It's the best two balls I hit is when I step on a rake. You love that line.
That sounds so bad, man.
It's a good line, man. Come on, bring up my good stuff here on the show early. Couldn't find hockey anywhere except for one kid at the gym wearing a Flyer shirt. That was about it. And he was there for about 30 seconds. And then
you stop him and say, "Hey, I've been looking for hockey." He said, "Get away from me, old man."
No, you know why? Because I think he was there with a bunch of his teammates. Because it's a bunch of kids, and they all got like matching shorts, and so I think they were just looking for a change room. To be honest with you, because it was like right at the main resort area, and they're just looking for a washroom to get changed. So they use the gym washroom. I think that's all there. I think that's all there is to it, really. Anyhow, all right, coming up on the program today, we got a big one for you. So if you've been waiting for a while, we got a number of different guests to talk about a number of different hockey issues. Daily Outline presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up on the program in a couple of moments here, we just mentioned Hart Levine from Puckpedia. He will stop by. Jet Greaves, netminder for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who has an outstanding story, is standing by. He'll be here in a couple of seconds. We'll talk about the World Junior Summer Showcase with our man Steven Ellis. A little bit more on the Connor McDavid extension or lack thereof at this point, and if we get to it, in a national deal with the NHL and DAZN. So we'll present that for you coming up a little bit later on the program. In the meantime, pleasure to welcome aboard for the first time here on the show, someone with a fantastic story. And I'm gonna go hockey geek. I'm just gonna say it right now. I'm gonna go hockey geek and talk about catching pucks with Jet Greaves, netminder for the Columbus Blue Jacket. And first of all, Jet, thanks so much for stopping by today. And I said off the hop that I was going to go full geek on you, and I will, because I'm guessing you have a baseball background. Because my main beef when I watch goaltenders now is they could be playing with two blockers. There are very few goalies who know how to catch the puck. You know how to catch the puck. Do you have, I know you have a tennis background. Do you have a baseball background?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm excited to be here and talk with you guys. Yeah, I grew up playing a ton of baseball. For me, it was kind of hockey's in the winters and baseball in the summer. So I love playing baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jed. I remember having a conversation about 10 years ago with Felix Potvin, former Maple Leafs netminder. And he was a goalie coach in Quebec. And I was like, well, what's the one thing that you notice about goaltenders now? And he said, no one knows how to catch anymore. He said, when we were kids, we played baseball in the summer, we played hockey in the winter, and everybody knew how to catch. Now goaltenders just block the puck with their catching hand. But that's one of the things that really stands out about you right away is your glove work and your glove play. Do you consider that to be one of your signatures in your game? How about that?
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. For me, I think it's been something that's been kind of natural. Like I said, with that baseball background, I always kind of had a glove in my hand all year, whether it's playing hockey or playing baseball. I think for me, it's something that I've talked about a lot with my coaches and just like talking to the guys, especially guys always talk about anytime we can get whistles and freeze the play, it, helps to kill the momentum the other team might have offensively. So I think it's just a big advantage anytime you can catch a puck and slow the play down. So for me, I just try to catch everything I can, but it's not maybe something I'm thinking about that much during the game. I'm kind of just reacting instinctively, but when it works out and you get some more whistles, I think it definitely helps.
I don't know, man. You kill play fast, like you really do. Like that glove. And I know. Like, does the equipment now help? Like how long does it take to break in a goalie glove now?
I think it kind of depends, one, on the guy, and then two, sometimes in the glove. Sometimes they're a little stiffer, sometimes they're a little softer. For me, like sometimes I'll have a glove and use it, in a practice, and then use it the next day in the game. They can be super quick, and sometimes they take a little bit longer. But yeah, I think like you said, they do such a good job making the gloves now. Where if you get the puck in the laces, usually they stick pretty good in there. So
okay, I want to get to your story because it's a great one, and I'm going to sort of bounce all around with topics with you here in the time that I have with you. But undrafted. I watched you play, years and years ago. Undrafted goaltender. I think you're on an ECHL two-way deal before rookie dev camp. Like I'm trying to put my Jet Greaves timeline together. I know that Manny Legacy really went out of his way to make sure that you got seen by the Columbus Blue Jackets organization. Can you walk us through the Jet Greaves NHL origin story?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start it when I was in junior. I played in Barrie in the OHL there. I was there when I was 17 was my rookie year. And then I went undrafted that season. And then I went to Columbus's development camp after that. And that's where I first met Manny and got to know everybody, in the organization there. And I just had such a great experience with Manny. And I felt like I learned so much from him, even just in that short time. And he expressed so much belief in me, which also kind of in turn helped me believe in myself too. So he was just such a big part of that. And then I went back to Barrie the following year, and then that was the year that got cut short at the end of the season with the COVID shutdown. And then the next year after that, we had no season in the OHL, so it was just kind of playing on outdoor rinks, all year like we did when we were kids. That was the only spot we'd play. We have a friend of ours; they have like a pond in their backyard, so we'd go there and skate. We always grew up having a rink in our backyard here, so my dad kind of built the rink again, and my brother and I would just skate out there all winter. So
now
that's what we.
No, please finish, please.
No, so I was going to say that. So that's what we did that year, and then from there, I ended up being fortunate to be able to. I was still talking with Columbus, and we had actually a showcase. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this or remember it, but
that the Mark Hunter one.
It was called the PBHH showcase. It was in Erie.
Okay.
a buddy of mine, Andy Perrott, him and a couple friends started it
Oh
kind of just
yeah,
for
Nathan's kid. Yeah. Nathan told me about this. Yeah. I remember that.
yeah. So Andy and I had knew each other for a long time since we were kids, and he started that just for OHL guys and guys who
Yeah.
didn't get seen that whole season just to play some competitive hockey. And they brought a ton of NHL teams there. And Columbus, Manny came to that. Brad Thiessen, who's our goalie coach in Cleveland, he came to that as well. And then shortly after, I signed an AHL deal with Columbus or with Cleveland, sorry. And then I started in Kalamazoo the following year. Was kind of up and down between Kalamazoo and Cleveland, and then just kind of built from there over the last few years.
There's a lot in there that I want to sort of pick up on. First of all, with the Barrie Colts, I really have a lot of time for the late Dale Hawerchuk. I think he was one of the best centers I've ever seen, and B, just a tremendous coach. And anyone who's been coached by Dale Hawerchuk, whether it's Mark Scheifele, we'll talk about him, Andrew Mangiapane, we'll talk about anyone who's been coached by Dale Hawerchuk, sort of sings from the same hymn book. Do you have a thought on being coached by Dale Hawerchuk? I don't know how much direct involvement he had with the goaltenders, but do you have a thought or two on Dale Hawerchuk?
Oh, it's so awesome. It was like you said, I think everybody who had the pleasure of being around him has only good things to say about him, as a coach and as a player, but just as a person. He was just so kind and always there, whatever you needed. And that, I think you could see in how many pros he's turned out from Barrie and his time coaching there, just the impact that he had on so many people. And, the guys that went on to do so many other things from other than hockey have learned so much from him. I think the biggest thing that I always talk about, and he was really big on harping to us, is just loving the game and enjoying the game and making it a big part of your life and how you live and just the value in that. I think you see it with someone like Mark Scheifele, just how passionate he is about the game. And so many of the guys, even Tyson Forster, him and I were rookies together in Barrie, and he's just loves hockey. So I think there's so many guys that came through there in Barrie that Dale kind of instilled that love of the game for us. So it was awesome to play for him and get to know him. And the one thing that I like to tell people is, I truly believe it, is he would play 3-on-3 with us, and he was always one of the best players out there. Even he's still probably one of the hardest guys I've ever tried to stop. And he was, however many years after he'd been done playing, but he was still so good.
I mean, you know what? I'll tell you, Jet. I remember playing in a charity game once, and Dale was on. It's one of those events where every team gets an ex-NHLer. And I had, I think it was Jeff Jackson, who's now the CEO of the Oilers, on my team, and Hawerchuk was on the other side. And the guys were like, go on, take a draw against Hawerchuk. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be so embarrassing. And all game long, even 1,500 points in the NHL Hall of Fame, of course, he gobbles me up at the dot. And I say to him, I pull up at the dot, I'm like, you can let me win one? And he goes, no. He goes, watch this. And so the referee's about to drop the puck. Jet, I'll never forget. I remember being oh my God, what just happened? He smacked my stick, flipped his blade over, and the puck landed flat on his blade. He held it up to my face and skated backwards laughing. You want to talk about being humiliated at the face-off dot? that was it for me.
That's great.
So you've had a lot of success early in your career. I know you've earned it. You've worked hard for it, as you mentioned, undrafted. You're one of those people that understands that there's no elevator to success. You take the stairs, and you've very much taken the stairs your entire way. We mentioned Manny Legacy earlier. Who are some of the other people that sort of helped you along and helped get you to this spot right now that you're at with the Blue Jackets?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people I could speak about right now when you ask that question. Obviously, my family and my parents have kind of taught me everything I know from such a young age. My brothers, him and I are so close, and we've spent so much time playing hockey together.
I've heard about, hang on. I've heard about you and Kai. I've heard that you compete, I've heard the tennis matches are insane. Now your brother's a defenseman, I believe, at Princeton. Am I correct on that? So I've heard you guys compete like everything, and these legendary tennis matches are only one. Like the way it was told to me is like they'll compete with anything, including like eating. No matter what it is, these two guys will compete. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know, we've just grown up that way. We've always been, he's 2 years younger than me, so we've always, been close in age and have a lot of the same friends. We just spend so much time around each other, and even, with our buddies, we're always active or playing basketball or tennis or whatever it is. And for whatever reason, Kai and I are always on opposite teams because we love competing against each other. And then we come home and we're finding something to compete at there. So we both kind of have that competitive spirit instilled in us just from the relationship we've had. So it's so fun.
I love it. I just love it. Okay, so let me ask you about this. So your agency, CAA, there are stories out there about this legendary speech that Jim Hughes gives, which involves, do you live in box 1, box 2, or box 3? Now, Jim Hughes, for those who don't know, is the father of Jack, Luke, Quinn, the Hughes boys, and he works at CAA. What can you tell us about the legendary story of do you live in box 1, 2, or 3? What's that all about?
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard that speech was when I was probably 13 or 14 years old at a camp that Jim was speaking at, and I had known him for a little bit at the time and kind of had gotten to learn everything that he was about and just, what it takes to become a professional hockey player and to play at the highest level. So you kind of always, he's the type of person that anybody who knows him, respects anything he says, and you're always kind of sit up straight when he's speaking to you. So you're taking notes and trying to as much as you can. But yeah, I remember he talked about, the biggest thing that he kind of instilled and that I took from it was he says, like, there's so many, at whatever stage of your career you're in, there's going to be things where you're thinking about something that happened the night before, whether it's, a good game or a bad game, where you're thinking
That's box
about,
1. That's box 1, the past, right?
Exactly. Box 1 is the past. And then there's box 3, which is kind of anything in the future where it's like what you want to do next game or where you want to play or think you should be playing or what you think should be happening, etc. And then he said there's box 2, though, which is box 2 is the present, and that's where your feet are. And he said as long as you're always in box 2 and kind of being where your feet are as much as you can, then that's what you need to do, and that's what's going to give you the best chance at success. And that's something that I've taken with me. It really kind of stuck with me then when I've heard it, and I've held on to throughout my career to this day, is just trying to be where my feet are, whatever the situation is, just trying to be present in the moment and enjoy it and give my best in the moment.
It's such a great line, and what people have told me about you too is like you are that guy. Like Jim Hughes, will go around asking, where are your feet right now? Where are your feet right now? Where are your feet right now? And what I've heard about you, Jet, is like if there's someone who lives, like you're the one guy that lives like right in the present every single moment, which is really like the wisest way. They can't do anything about the past. You can't predict the future. You live where your feet are. Otherwise, you can have a life full of anxiety. Were you always like that? Or is that 13-year-old Jet Greaves heard that from Jim Hughes before a tournament with Jack Hughes, and it always stuck with him? Like, where do you get that from?
I think just, there have been so many experiences throughout the way and so many people that I've spoken to that just try to learn as much as I can about, what's the right way to do things. And I think that's something my parents have always instilled in me from a young age, is just controlling what you control. It's not about what else is going on or what you think the situation should be or whatever it is, but just enjoying the moment where you are and working hard where you are and just controlling that and trusting that the results will take care of itself. And then I think just being able to have so many different experiences, I've kind of, for me, I feel like learned the value of that and been able to experience it, which I think just instills it even more.
So what does your summer look like? Like, what is, like, this is the big summer for you. This is, next season's going to be a big one for the Blue Jackets. I said, I'm sure everybody in the organization felt, the outpouring of love and affection. Even if you're not a fan of the Blue Jackets, you had to cheer for the Blue Jackets last season. You picked up a lot of fans along the way. And I think the Blue Jackets turned a lot of heads along the way as well. And I'll tell you what, I thought of you right away when Don Waddell made the move with Florida, sending Daniil Tarasov to the Florida Panthers. I said, okay, maybe the blocking is done here. This is the open lane here for Jet Greaves. What's your summer like right now, knowing that there's that spot right there for you?
Yeah, I think for me, like kind of going back to our last conversation, you might things like that happen, but for me, it's really my summer is always just about preparing for the upcoming season and just trying to develop my game and everything I'm doing in life really around the game. So I'm back home in Cambridge, Ontario, where I kind of always spend my summers with my family and friends here. I've got my goalie coach Matt Smith. He's been my goalie coach since I was 12 or 13 years old. So just spending time skating with him and spending time in the gym trying to just prepare my body for the season upcoming and really just enjoying the process of improving. I think that's such a fun part of the game is learning about what you can do to get better and just try to make those steps every single day. So just really trying to be grounded in that process, I guess.
Last one for you. How is the training changed? And I want to frame it in one very specific way. For the longest time, goalies had the advantage in hockey because they spent the summers working on being a goaltender, and the players lifted. That was it. Get strength back, get strength back. I remember Alain Vigneault. This is all under the when the conversation was happening about the goalie's equipment is too big and we need to make the nets bigger or shrink the equipment. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with anybody about needing to shrink the equipment because, to Alain Vigneault's point, he always said, listen, if the shooters want to score more goals, they got to learn how to shoot better. And now we know a lot about pre-shot movement by the puck and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And right now it seems as if the advantage has started to swing more towards the players. Now they decided we should probably lift less and work more on our game more in the off season. So how has your training changed to sort of understand the new reality that it's not just one or two guys on a team that can shoot anymore, it's everybody?
Yeah, I think it's a fun it's a fun game like you're talking about between the players are always getting better and the goalies are always trying to get better. The defenders are getting better. So I think it's really cool game to always be evolving like that. And I think to answer your question, it's for us just a lot of watching a lot of video and understanding where the game is, where the game is going, how the goals are going in, whether it's on myself or on any goalie in the NHL or whatever level it is. Mm-hmm. And then also looking at guys that are having success and what are they doing that's making them successful. So I think it's just that process of learning as much as we can about players, talking to players, asking, what are you seeing? What are you looking at? And just trying to prepare in every way for those situations, whether it's through video work or on the ice or off the ice or mental work, just trying to be prepared for every situation.
Okay, I lied. I have one more. Favorite goalies, either right now or of all time? I'm always curious about this.
Oh, there are so many. One that comes to mind right away is Carey Price. He was kind of
the best.
When I
so good
started the story of me starting to really play goalie was kind of two things came into play. One, my dad was playing goalie in his hockey, so that was always I always kind of wanted to be like play. And the other one was my brother and I during World Juniors. We would always like watch it and then play mini sticks at the commercials and during the game just kind of pretend to be the players. But I think it was the 2007 World Juniors. Carey Price was the starting goalie for Canada, and they did kind of a segment on him before the game and just showed him like walking through the streets of Sweden or something like that. And I kind of just saw like his demeanor and how calm and composed he was. And then we watched the game, and he was amazing, and Canada won. And then after that, I was a goalie in mini sticks, and I was begging my parents to let me play.
You know what always impressed me about, I'm glad you mentioned like his demeanor. The thing that always impressed me about Carey Price is post-game interviews, if you didn't know the final score, you would have no clue if Montreal won the game or lost the game. Highs weren't too high, lows weren't too low, just even, like the entire time. Like, and if you're a goal man, I'm sure you've seen plenty. Maybe you've been this guy in the past. If you're a goalie and you ride the wave, oh man, it could be a really long season if you don't sort of have that at least resembling a sort of Carey Price attitude, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was something I kind of always picked up the same way watching him and watching his interviews, and even just the way he played was that, he never really changed. No matter what happened, he was very, very steady and very composed. So I think it
Yeah.
was so awesome, being able to watch him growing up. I was watching him a lot. I was watching Henrik Lundqvist. I've always been a
Of
huge
course.
fan of his. Obviously, he was great. And then even Bob as well. Obviously, it's cool that he was
Yeah.
in Columbus before me, but I've always been such a fan of him. And even now, it's cool to see, just how the career he's putting together. It's awesome.
So much fun. Listen, I don't know whether it's a big tennis match with Kai after this interview here with me today, Jet, but whatever is next for you, we wish you all the success and look forward to seeing you with the Blue Jackets next year. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There he is, Jet Greaves, netminder for the Columbus Blue Jackets. One final thing on Dale Hawerchuk that I wasn't able to get into. Zach, you may like this one. So I've had a couple of people who played for the Barrie Colts tell me this story. So Hawerchuk would always try to impress on forwards. So Scheifele, Tanner Pearson, Mangiapane, some of the names. Jet mentioned Tyson Forster. What he would always stress is at the NHL level, you're not going to have a lot of time to get your shot off in the offensive zone. It's got to be on your stick, off your stick, on your stick, off your stick. And the thing about Hawerchuk was he wanted to make sure the players just knew instinctively how to shoot and where to shoot. That what he would do for a lot of these guys. Have you ever heard of blindfold shooting? Do you ever do blindfold shooting?
No, I didn't. Where is this going? No.
Blind during practice, right? Like for set plays, put a blindfold on hockey players or have them close their eyes, get the puck and shoot. Because he said a lot of times it's going to feel like you don't even get a chance to look at where the net is. You just have to know where to shoot. Because the thing about Hawerchuk, and I've gotten to know his son Eric over the years, and talking to the family a number of times when Dale was young, and he would shoot, he would spend a lot of time with his eyes closed shooting because he needed to know instinctively where the puck needed to go and wanted to sort of challenge himself. And it was always said, and I don't care if this is true or not, I love the story and I'm going to keep repeating it, that Hawerchuk was able to tell whether his puck hit the post or the crossbar because they made different sounds. Someone told me that story a while ago. I'm like, oh man, I really want that to be true. I really want that story to be true.
It's like believable enough too, where it's like that could very well be true, but very awesome.
Man, like of course, why not?
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun talking to Jet Greaves. Speaking of goaltenders, we're going to talk to another goaltender, not an NHL goaltender, but a ball hockey goaltender. But first, this segment is brought to you by Simply Spiked. Summer is here, hanging out in the great weather with great friends. You want that feeling to last forever. You can squeeze every drop out of summer with Simply Spiked. Simply Spiked has 3 delicious flavors. The OG Summer Classic, Simply Spiked Lemonade, is always a party favorite. Try a sweet and juicy summer sip with Simply Spiked Peach, or check out the newest flavor in the Simply Spiked lineup, Simply Spiked Limeade, sweet and tart. Don't know which one you want to try? Why not try all of them with the Simply Spiked Variety Pack? These juice beverages are 5% alcohol, contain real fruit juice, and are the perfect refreshing and convenient summer drink. Simply Spiked pairs perfectly with any summer occasion, summer hangs, backyard and pool parties, or a barbecue. Simply Spiked launched in Canada in 2023 and has been bringing the juiciness ever since. Pick up Simply Spiked at your local liquor store for your next summer hangout. Must be legal drinking age. Please celebrate responsibly. With that, from one goaltender, we go to another. He is our lead prospect analyst here on Daily Faceoff. He is the one and only ball hockey goaltender par excellence, the one and only Steven Ellis. Oh, look at that! No, hang on, get that right to camera. That's nice. Give us the origin story of this mask.
So there's a place, Padskins. They're a company in Orangeville, Ontario, and they make like vinyl wraps. And I like this one. It matched a lot of the equipment I had with color-wise. So it was like a whole Team Canada style helmet. And then the referee that I deal with a lot kept forgetting my name. So I put my name on there so he knows who I am. And then I just got a cat eye cage, the ones that the NHL goalies use, but like you'll never find any other goalie using it. And so had a big win last night against my former team. So that always feels good. And, I just got a text message about 45 seconds ago asking to play tonight. So it never ends.
Wow, man, the life of now. Do you like for lack of a better term, like do you whore yourself out to like ball hockey teams? Like, are you that guy? Like, yeah, I'll come in for $50, or I'll come in for
There's
$25, or I'll come in for a tin of beer.
there's basically like I'm pretty sure in the GTA there's probably like 6 goalies that exist. So it makes it really easy to kind of corner the market, and it's been good too
Yeah.
because it's like I only start playing in October, but I've already won like top goalie in 2 leagues. So it's like here's the
Nice.
results. Keep bringing me there. Let's keep going.
Just talked to Jet Greaves a second ago with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't know if you have a thought on him. Maybe you saw him in Barrie. Maybe you saw him play Cambridge Hawks previously. You have a thought on Jet Greaves because I mentioned this to him during the interview. The moment they traded Tarasov to the Florida Panthers, that was the moment I said, all right, now they're clearing the path for Jet Greaves full-time backup to Elvis Merzlikins. We don't know what the future for Elvis Merzlikins is going to be, but the future for Jet Greaves is very much in the crease with CBJ. Do you have a thought on Jet Greaves?
Yeah, that's a guy that the more I watch him, the more impressed I am. And you look at this past season between the NHL, between the AHL, it was just a guy that was just racking up wins all the time. And I think when you see a young goalie go to the NHL and be that successful, it's kind of like, okay, you've got to prove everything, but you also don't know what you don't know. And you'll see a lot of these young goalies that come to the NHL and they don't have a ton of experience playing against some of these high-end shooters, and they're just like, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to go out there and perform. And we saw the type of season he had. So the Blue Jackets, I think it was clear a couple of years ago, Merzlikins wasn't going to be the long-term guy. They needed someone to be that long-term guy. And I think by trading to make sure he was the backup next year for Jet Greaves, but then also not drafting, or they draft a goalie in Andreoff, but some guy that isn't going to be there for 4 or 5 more years. That shows a lot of trust into him. So I'm really happy where his development is.
Speaking of goaltenders, anyone impress you so far at the World Junior Summer Showcase?
Herman
there?
Liv. Yeah,
Oh,
Herman
yeah?
Liv. Yeah, so Stefan Liv's son, and small goalie. Sweden's had enough of those guys the last couple of years. Havlid being the most recent one the last couple of years, but he's been really good for Sweden. Played against the Americans 2 nights ago and was like unbelievable. Like that game could have completely gone the other way, and Sweden actually ended up winning that game because of his heroics, because it probably should have been more like a 6-7-3 game than what ended up being. And Carter George was great yesterday in that intra-squad game. Like, I know it's kind of hard sitting there 6 o'clock watching an intra-squad controlled scrimmage where the second period is all about power plays and penalty kills. But this is summer hockey, right? This is it. Like, I was at the Hlinka camp. Like, I just got back from there just before I got here for Team Canada, and I'll be at the next couple of days where they do a bunch of games, and it's definitely summer hockey.
But first of all, if there's anyone that's going to do that in the world, Steven, it's you that are going to be that guy. So here's a question, and again, Nick, you're right. This is summer hockey. But listen, we haven't seen Matthew Schaefer play for a long time. Yeah. What does something like this summer showcase mean for the Islanders' first overall draft pick?
I think 100% seeing him play yesterday, like, he was not at full strength, and I've always been on the camp of he should not be in the NHL full time this year. He just needs to play a lot of hockey, and that's what he could do in the OHL. In terms of how he looked yesterday, better than I think I expected. But also on top of that, like Caden Lidstrom, a guy that missed most of last year, was probably Canada's best player. And I say that knowing it was Canada versus Canada. But he was probably the best player in that entire game. But seeing Schaefer look as confident as he did with the puck, and I think he got better as the night wore on because he looked just like, okay, I know this pace. I know how to handle it. I know how to control the play here. Once he started to get comfortable there, that's when things really looked up.
Who's looked good so far? Actually, we'll focus on Canada. Like, who's looked good for Canada so far?
Well, it's tough because they've only done that one controlled scrimmage, right? But they're going to be playing their second game tonight. I thought Carter George looked really good. I thought he made some fantastic saves. Michael Hage, University of Michigan forward, really impressive game. Marek Vanacker was. I was sitting with a scout with the Brantford Bulldogs, and we're talking last night. And he's like, "Yeah, like Marek Vanacker is going to do something." Next thing you hear, and Vanacker scores. It's like, well, there you go. So he looked good. It's been kind of just not all the big stars going out there and shining, right? And I think that's also what you're looking for at a tournament like this. And tonight, we know when they play Finland, it's going to be the one where they're sending most of their best players. And then after that, a lot of those good guys, the guys who are pretty much locked to make the team, they'll go home.
The United States has won 2 golds at the World Juniors back to back here. Listen, Hagen seems like whether it was at Boston camp, whether it's at this summer showcase so far, like he seems determined to sort of prove that he shouldn't have fallen in the draft like he did, and it should have been the conversation between him and Matthew Schaefer for first overall. What do you expect out of Hagens?
I'm a big James Hagen's fan, whether it be in college, whether it be him in the NHL potentially next year, which I don't think would be the right call, whether it be at the World Juniors. Like, this is a guy that I get some of the concerns. He's not overly strong, but you see kind of how Jack Hughes' career has gone. And Jack Hughes has become this undersized center that players look up to because he can dominate in other ways. Granted, Jack Hughes has been hurt a lot. There's that. But when it comes to what Hagen says, I think he's just exceptionally smart, great with the puck, can play with anyone. Like, I think that when you look at who he could play with, you'd say, okay, well, Cole Eiserman, those two guys played so well together at a young age. Like, it'd be great to see those guys together. But no, it's watching him and Teddy Stiga and Brody Ziemer play together. It's been fun to watch because they kind of all complement each other. And at the same time, with Hagens, he's kind of that brain trust. And I'm saying that as he just won a really nice face-off right to my left. But he's just such a smart player, can do so many things at both ends of the ice. Like, I'm not worried about him having a good career. He's going to be very good.
Thoughts on the coaching staff for Team Canada? U20 led by Dale Hunter. Now, I thought it was going to be, honestly, I thought it was going to be Gardner McDougall. Now, he ends up on the bench anyhow, which is great. But your thoughts on Dale Hunter, the bench boss for Team Canada?
The fact that Gardner McDougall isn't the main guy kind of just shows you this is a scary good coaching group. And you look at last year, and you look at kind of just everything that went wrong with Canada, and a lot of people, myself included, will point and say, clearly they weren't putting the right line combinations. They weren't trying the right things. And I think this case, I don't see that being an issue. Oh, and James Hagen is currently in a nice scrum. So talking about him being not very physical, here he is trying to put someone in a headlock.
Hockeyscrums.com coming soon to a website near you. No one fights anymore. It's just scrums. Hockeyscrums.com. Here we go.
My grandma just says like every player hugs each other. Like
she's not wrong.
Canada's coaching staff, like this looks like one of the better coaching staffs we've seen. And even if you don't have Matthew Schaefer, even if Michael Misa is not there, Zane Parekh, like this team is going to be deep. It's going to be really hard to screw this up. So Canada looks like the team to beat right now. I know you laugh, and it's like, well, we kind of know how this team plays, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about specifically last year in Ottawa, such a disappointment for Team Canada. Well, first of all, do you notice a change at all within Hockey Canada coming off of the disappointment last year? Like, look, there's always been this idea that you have to be loyal to the program. If you don't go to all of the events, and you're not going to be picked for the World Junior team, etc. I know that people at Hockey Canada deny it, but there's always sort of been that vibe out there. Does it feel different to you now? Like, nothing spurs activity in Canadian hockey quite like losses. And losses the likes of which we saw last season were spectacular. Do you sense, again, there's no sort of scientific way to determine this, but vibe check, does it feel different with Hockey Canada now?
I still would have liked to see like a full-time coach, like some guy who was just dedicated to being the head coach of the World Junior team. But I think so. Like,
I think, by the way, I think before he got the Arizona, now Utah job, I think Andre Tournier might have been that guy, was going to be that guy.
Yeah. And would have been a great choice for that too. Like, that's a guy that has had to do a lot with a little in his early days at Arizona. It's going to get better hopefully in Utah pretty quickly here. But I think with the coaching staff, like, they went all out. They're they brought the best group they possibly can, and there's all the talk about whether or not they'll have a selection camp in December. Like, I think I was at that selection camp, and I remember watching Zane Parekh and being very underwhelmed and thinking, if he's going to miss this team, it's because he did not perform well in this 2-day camp. Well, I guess it was 3 days, but it was like, that's way too short. And if they get rid of that and they focus more on just taking the best players available from the entire season, they're going to be in better shape. But because Canada was the only one that really does a selection camp like that. Like USA did some training camp drills, but they were only cutting like 2 players last year. So it's not exactly as big of a deal as Canada. But yeah, you kind of hope, if you're a Canadian hockey fan, that they can turn things around, because on paper, with the talent they had available last year, Canada should not have been out as early as they was. And this year would be an utter shock, I think, especially when Sweden's not looking as dangerous, Finland's not looking as dangerous. Like, this is the year where Canada can kind of steal that spotlight back. And if you're Hockey Canada, you got to go all out no matter what.
Last one for you. Speaking of spotlights, is next year's World Junior in Minnesota going to be spotlight on Gavin McKenna, period?
You know, we've seen some hot and cold moments from him in international hockey, but the hot moments have been very, very good. I was at ice level when he scored all those goals in that gold medal game with the U18s in Finland. Unbelievable performance. It's going to be the Gavin McKenna show. But hey, he might not be the only draft-eligible player on that team. Keaton Verhoff, I think, could play key minutes right away. I saw him this morning.
Okay,
he looks so
okay. Let me ask you this: is there any chance that it's a real conversation by the time the draft rolls around next year between McKenna and Keaton Verhoff? Is there a chance that it's a real convo? Say it.
I think it's closer than most people would think. Hey, here's one I'll throw out for 2027.
Okay.
I talked to a few scouts who think Alexis Joseph could be better than Landon Dupont. We'll see.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Different positions, but Joseph's like 6'4", power forward, outstanding, like pure dominance last week at the U17 camp. I was at a game where his team won like 15-4. It was a stupid game, and he had like 8 or 9 points. Like, he is a dominant forward. I remember watching like Quinton Byfield do things like that at the same age. So we'll see.
Interesting. All right, we'll let you get back to watching. All right, thanks so much for the information and the time, and much appreciated. And we will check back soon. August is coming, so we'll bug you about Hlinka Gretzky. So that's on the horizon too. Thanks, pal. You be good.
Thanks so much.
There he is, ball hockey goaltender extraordinaire and lead prospect analyst for us here at Daily Faceoff, the one and only Steven Ellis. And from there, we go to, as we sort of bounce around the hockey universe, our good friend, the curator, the owner, the meat behind the beat of Puckpedia, the one and only Hart Levine. And Hart, thanks so much for joining me today. It's never a dull moment. I'm sure, like, after we finished texting, like 2 seconds later, Calgary announced the Pospisil deal as well, which, by the way, I think is a really good deal for Calgary. For a third-line center at that number with that term, considering where the salary cap is going, sometimes when you get this information, Art, you look at yourself and say, no, I'm not reading this right. There must be more to, because that Pospisil deal looks great for Calgary, like fantastic.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I get the wait. Is that the AAV or the total? What's going on here? Usually the opposite way. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to go wrong signing a young player for a couple of years for a couple million, right? Because if it doesn't work out, you can bury them or someone will take a chance because it's not that big a cap hit. So whenever you have a player in their early to mid 20s, you can get a few years, at like 3 million or less, you should go for it.
Yeah. So one of the things off the top of the show, we sort of teased, like you were coming on, and one of the things we wanted to talk about was, has this new CBA, I don't want to say destroyed, but has it severely dented the trade deadline? With things like the removal of, double retention on deals, salary cap in the playoffs. We always wonder about, the law of unintended consequences. Is the unintended consequence here going to be an even more boring trade deadline than we've seen the last few seasons? It's tough to make moves when all of a sudden you're more handcuffed than ever if you're a GM at trade deadline.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, it'd be hard to look at some of these changes and come to any other conclusion. So yeah, double retention, it has, for once a player has been retained once, you have to wait 75 season days before they can be retained again. So that means like if you want to get a player at a quarter of their cap hit at the deadline, they've got to be traded first, like before the holidays. I mean, and then he's got to basically be rented on a broker team for 75 days. That seems very unlikely to happen. So, and you look at the moves that happened at the last deadline where there's players coming in at a quarter. I mean, look at Trent Frederick with the Oilers, right? I mean, it happens every year. There's one or two deals like that. So you take that away. The other one, with the playoff cap. So when we finally got the details and looked through it, we see that the playoff cap has no proration for when you acquired a player, right? So there's teams that are under the cap and they sort of like follow the traditional cap rules, are not utilizing LTI at all. They have some cap space to start the year. They bank the space, and the way that the cap hits are prorated, by the time they get to the deadline, they can afford a player with a really big cap hit, and they're only going to take up about 20% of that cap charge to them because that's all the percentage of the season remaining. And they bring that player in. So let's just say we have a player with an $8 million cap hit. He's really only going to hit their books for about $2 million for the rest of the season. But then you get to the playoff cap and there's no prorating for when you acquired a player. So now you have to have room on your roster for that full $8 million cap hit. So yeah, of course, there's some other differences. Like it's only the 20 skater player roster, but still it's a big difference between, an $8 million player and a $2 million player. And so when teams that are like firmly going to be in the playoffs look at doing an acquisition, so they have to think now, well, I can afford them at the deadline and on my regular season cap. But boy, when we're in the playoffs, I might have to scratch him or someone else. Maybe I don't want to make that move. So that was a surprising element of the playoff cap that, to your point, I think between that and the double retention, there's no other conclusion to draw that it is likely to reduce trade activity, which is like, why do we want that? I mean, that drives a lot of interest in the sport. There's people that follow like the soap opera of sports now and don't even watch the games as much as they like to follow the transactions. So it's a little bit, especially the double retention piece. It's like a solution that didn't have a problem.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to here, because I never heard. Maybe you did. You lived this.
No, I did not.
I never heard anyone complain about it, and all of a sudden it popped up, and I did one of those like Don Knotts spit takes from Three's Company. Boy, is that a dated reference. But I looked at it and I went, what am I missing here? I have not heard one person ever complain about this or even raise this as an issue, other than maybe like, okay, you know what? That's a really creative way to get some deals done here. I mean, look at the original Mikko Rantanen deal between Colorado and Columbus. It took Chicago to make the whole thing happen. And it happened, and everybody benefited. Everybody got something out of the deal, and fans had, 24, 48 hours of, this, to your point, the soap opera of an NHL trade. And now that's getting snuffed out.
Yeah, the only feedback I had heard from people with teams is that the administration of it was a pain, because technically we call it like a 3-team trade when there's a double retention. It actually was a series of 3 different trades, kind of all tied together. And it was a hassle for Central Registry to process it and for the teams to like work out those logistics. But that's like an administration problem. That's not like a league. Like, so figure out a better system for doing that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could have helped them. Puck PD could have helped them figure out how to process those trades. I don't think you should get rid of them because it's a little bit of an administration hassle. I completely agree. That when I go through the CBA with stakeholders, especially teams and agents, we try to say like who won on this change, who did this benefit, and we get to the double retention one, especially. It's like who needed this, who wanted this. Like I said, it's a problem that wasn't solving or a solution that wasn't solving a problem. It's just very shocking.
Anything else from the new CBA that from your corner at Puckpedia really jumps out as, well, this is novel, this is ridiculous, or this is something pretty interesting here that I never thought about before? Like what grabbed you, Hart?
Well, there'd been a lot of reporting about some of the key changes. So when we got the actual MOU document, one thing that jumped out that hadn't been reported was the change to the emergency exceptions. So that's where when a team doesn't have enough cap space to call up a player, fans will be familiar if they play short for one game, then they can call up a player as an emergency and they don't count against the cap. That's how it's worked. Well, what they changed in this one was a little bit of like a give and a take. They gave in that the player that can be called up in the emergency can have a bigger cap hit. It used to be the league minimum plus 100,000. Now it's the league minimum plus 375. So, you could get a player over $1 million now to fit into that exception. The difference, though, is before it didn't count against the cap. Now it's actually quite punitive. It uses up all your cap space that you have available, even if you don't have enough for a full player. Let's say you have enough for half a player. So you use up that cap space, and the amount of space that you are kind of getting for free because you're calling up this guy in the exception. Now it's a cap charge for the following season. So it actually kind of works like the performance bonus carryovers where, we're going to give you a benefit this year, but now there's an extra charge for next season. So that's one where I see it seems to me the motivation is we don't want teams doing this. We don't like it. We don't like teams that play short a player. So to punish them more, it's not this kind of like free card to play where you get a free player up. It's going to use up your cap space that you have this year and a charge for next year. But it's kind of the opposite of what we just talked about with the double retention. That is a lot more administration to now track how much cap space was it for this season? What's the carryover for next season? Now you're going to see a team that, they don't have the full cap space next season. They're missing, like $21,000 because of this. Is that really going to make a difference? So that's one where I see that, okay, they're looking to make it less common for teams to play short and then use this emergency exception because now it's more punitive.
What did you make of the idea that when you send a player down, that player has to stay and play one game in the American League before? And the one thing that jumped at me for that one, and we're starting to see this trend. Like, listen, Vancouver's got their farm team in Abbotsford for a reason. It's not in Utica anymore. We've started to see, San Jose's got teams, but we've started to see teams bring their American Hockey League affiliate closer to the NHL team. And I guess this is just going to be further fuel and ammunition for teams to say, you know what, we better have our AHL team close. Now, having said that, teams travel. You might send a guy down. You're sending him all the way across the country. But nonetheless, did that one stand out for you as well?
It's not surprising because I'd heard that the league didn't like how it worked. The rule is like if you send a player down, even on paper, you're supposed to like try to get them to the airport and go meet the minor league team. But teams would play with it so that when they actually process it, oh, sorry, there's no flights today. And now he's back up tomorrow. I see with the league trying to protect the integrity of the salary cap and not having teams manipulate it, why they would do something like that. But from a player's perspective now, think about for a player that's on a two-way deal, every day in the NHL is, like let's say it's league minimum 775. It's 775 divided by 192 days. That's a lot more than like 80,000 divided by 192 days. So you're potentially actually having players like stuck that extra day or two in the minors, and it can cost them some real money. Again, maybe that's an unintended consequence, but if I'm a player that's on a two-way deal, and now instead of going up and down and I only kind of miss one day from an NHL pay, now I have to miss 2, 3, 4 days. And ride a bus a little bit and all that. Like it's actually, it does punish those players. But again, it does look a little funny. Players are getting sent up and down all the time. It does happen in other sports. Like look at, yesterday with the Blue Jays with a doubleheader, there's players getting sent up and down between games and they're not going anywhere. Right.
This Baltimore trade, that was hilarious. Walk past the bullpen, see his old teammates.
Exactly.
Give away.
So you see why they might want to do it, but again, unintended consequences. It's going to cost some players some real cash in their pockets and not millionaires. It's costing guys that are, in some cases, they don't have much money to their name. And so, you're costing them several $1,000s.
We're starting to see, I've for the longest time now talked about, this, the salary cap goes back to 2005 here in the NHL. And, it's time to take the training wheels off the salary cap and maneuver a little bit, baby's first salary cap. Oh, it's cute and all that, but it started 20 years ago in 2005 here. Let's make some changes here. If you were changing the cap, like if you, Hart Levine, owner of Puckpedia, were changing the way the salary cap was set up, administered, wanted to add something to it, wanted the salary cap to get out of the stroller and start to walk around a little bit here, getting into the toddler years, what would you do?
It's a good question. And your opening comment too there, I think is very true. Like the NHL salary cap is far simpler than the other leagues. And when people ask me why, I say it's because it's newer, right? The other leagues started likely simpler and they just keep getting more complicated over time. The couple changes that I would make, it actually kind of goes against that. And I think it needs to be even more simplified because the salary cap and the rules, that leads to a lot of interest in the sport and conversation and talking about it. I think the LTIR rules, they need to be simpler. It's too complicated. I have to tell you, there's a lot of people with teams that don't quite understand the intricacies of it. It's actually how you apply LTIR is not in the CBA. It's in a few memos, and you also have to go to central registry and sit down for a training course if you're going to be a team executive. That seems like that tells you right there it's too complicated. So I see what they did where they limited the benefit of it during the season. Well, now it's capped at basically the league average salary, but how you set your pool and how it functions, that's too complicated. The other part that I would change is that we have so many different definitions in the CBA for age and experience. A guy's a certain age and he's played a certain number of years, but depending on if you're talking waivers, arbitration, different elements, there's different ways to define it. That seems crazy. There should be like my platform, if I was running for mayor of the CBA, is a simplified definitions for age and experience. And then I think, though, to your point about like taking some training wheels off, teams, it's good for sports when teams retain their star players, right? It builds that loyalty with the fan base. And I do think there should be more of a benefit to a team to retain their player. They have one extra year that they can sign them. I don't think that's enough. If Gary Bettman heard me say there, you should be able to like exceed the cap for signing your player, I'm sure he would shock my desk right now. But some aspect of that where maybe retaining your player that's been with you or you've drafted, you get like they don't all count against the cap, or some discount, some mechanism to reward a team that's drafted or kept a player for a certain number of years, and now he's going to re-sign with them, because we're going to see with shorter contracts now, both with the term limit, but also with the cap jumping up, we're seeing already teams or players are signing for shorter deals. We're going to see way more player movement, especially in free agency in the next few years. And that's just, it's exciting, but also it's not great for teams to like not have those long-term players that the fans can build a relationship with.
The one thing that the NHL has, outside of amnesty buyouts, I suppose, been really consistent with is no outside money. No money outside the system. The money that's in the system that's the money that we're dealing with here, which is why I can lobby every time there's a new CBA for, if you're going to ask a player to waive a no trade, that player, there should be a price tag that comes along with it. Hey, you're gonna waive your no move clause, you get $500,000 or $1 million, whatever. That would be money outside the system. It doesn't count against your cap, etc. That hard is not going to happen. there's
they have
no
that
chance
in the NBA.
because
it's called a trade kicker.
I know,
NBA.
right? And I think as trade deadline becomes more restrictive, and there's so many players with no move, no trade clauses right now, and players that don't want to, there's no incentive for them to waive their no trade clause. Give them something. Otherwise, you're not proposing a business deal. You're proposing, give me something in exchange for you getting nothing. That's not a business deal. That's not an arrangement. That's not that's not a deal at all. That's charity. Let me do something good for me. You suffer.
And I think it's related to the players. We've seen a lot of that lately with a no trade clause. They go on waivers and they go to San Jose, basically, right? Or Anaheim, right? I think that, and this goes to a conversation I'm sure you've heard from agents. I hear from a lot of agents, what did we win in the deal? Like, what did players get in this deal, right? They got a little bit of playoff money, which for most players, it's not like significant. Some of the basically employer benefits that an employer should pay no longer counts against the player's share, but that's a very small shift in the pie.
Those are takebacks.
So basically,
those are takebacks.
Exactly.
So
what did the players win? And I do think they lost a few things, right? So I think that's a fair argument. Like, there were some things that the players should have pushed for, or could have pushed for, I should just say. And let's just say the NHL was firm and they were not going to agree to that. That's, I guess, there's a reasonable approach for Marty Walsh side to say, hey, it's too much damage to the league if we have a lockout, and so whatever gains we could get is not worth missing time. If that's your approach, that's fine. But why you didn't have to sign, right before the draft? You could have signed this fall, next spring, right? You could still have that same approach. We don't want to miss time while still trying to create some leverage and get a little bit for your players. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that the players agree. There are some things that are pretty obvious, that could have been in there that they didn't get.
I could not agree with you more. I've been saying this since it got signed and we found out what was in it. There was no pressure point there. There was no reason to sign. It's like even go back to 2005 when that, the original, but the salary cap CBA, we'll call it, was signed in July. Why? Where's the pressure point? If you're the Players Association, why at that point? And I asked this one too. You have all this time, to your point, to try to create some type of leverage. Essentially, this is first of all, from the NHL's point of view, masterpiece.
Of course.
They played the NHL Players Association. They plucked them like a fiddle. And now what Bettman and the NHL is able to do is go to market and look at 2 new expansion teams and $4 billion and say, welcome to the NHL. All the money that comes in is being spread out to our owners. The players are not seeing a dime. And we have labor peace.
And imagine you're holding that deal up, right? Like they know that there's expansion money coming, but you're holding the keys to that money, and you're saying, look, the only thing we want is you get a bonus if you get traded. You get, a 10% discount on the cap if you re-sign a player that you drafted or whatever. And you can't lose a guy. A guy can't go on waivers to a team that there's no trade clause. You really think that they were going to hold up like that pot of gold of all that expansion for that? Like, of course. So, you're totally right. Deals require leverage and pressure points. The pressure point was that Bettman wanted it either for the playoffs or for the draft, right? So good for him, but that's like a nice to have, not a need to have. I agree. And there's a lot of grumbling from agents that felt sort of like cut out of the process, which is not like that's common in the CBA. Like they typically deal with some players and not the agents. And we could debate the wisdom of that, but there's some grumbling about they were cut out. And again, what did the players actually get? And if this was the best deal, we're open to that possibility. But why did it have to be signed when it was signed?
It's funny too, because I referenced 2005, and one of the dynamics at play there, very much within the Players Association, was the Rich Winter group versus the Don Meehan group. In that dynamic, anyhow, that there should be more written about that. But anyhow, it's a side. By the way, last one for you: are you surprised that Carey Price's contract hasn't been traded?
No, he has a big signing bonus September 1st. So I think he will be, if he's going to be traded, which I think is a decent chance, I think it's going to be in September or sometime after September 1st. I think if you look at the Habs cap situation, they are not set up for a team that is going to be using Price on LTIR. Not to get into the LTIR weeds, but to set your pool, you either want to be just under the cap or over the cap by up to that injured player's cap it. And they're kind of like right in the middle. So that looks like a team that is planning to trade that contract. And we see a lot of teams that are around the floor or at least have a lot of cap space. He has a very small base salary after that signing bonus is paid out. So I think that's a September, October, early October trade. I think, that's definitely a possibility.
San Jose Sharks?
It seems to be where everyone goes, right?
Hart, you're the best. Continued success. We will check back soon, my friend.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
There he is, Hart Levine, the owner, the curator, the brain trust behind Puckpedia. Anything there jump out at you, Zach?
Well, I liked the comments there about where you're looking at with rewarding teams who keep players. I think that's always been a major frustration of mine.
Fans want that.
Yeah.
Fans want that.
Yeah, because like you look at teams that all of a sudden start building guys up. Like Tampa was a prime example of that for a while there for me, where it was like, okay, congratulations, you've drafted really well in rounds 3 through 6, but now you have to pay that guy $3.5–4 million because he's so good, and because you did so good at finding the player and developing the player, you have to lose him. It's like, well, the hell's the point of this? The fans fall in love with the third line guy, but now he just priced himself out by this much. Like that never made sense to me. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not something we're gonna get here immediately, but like. I heard Hart say that, and I was like, wow, I'm vindicated for thinking and feeling the way I did. So I'm going to grab onto that.
Hart's a secret weapon, man. That guy is sharp. That guy knows the CBA inside and the salary cap inside and out. Okay, a couple of things here before we wrap for the day. The sheet is powered, as you know, by FanDuel. FanDuel, a home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What are we thinking today?
So it's a little hard pickings here. I'm just going to be real honest.
What are you talking about? It's July 30th. Come on, we got to have something.
But I'm digging through and I'm trying to find some stuff. And our friends at FanDuel did have this market posted, and it's following in line with what we had just before you left last week, and that would be another head-to-head player matchup. This one is on the blue line. It would be Cale Makar against Quinn Hughes. Who has more points next season head-to-head between the two? Cale Makar favored in that one, -150. Quinn Hughes, +120. I think, like, the way I look at this, you tell me if you see it differently, but I think that this makes sense given that we're all kind of for the most part here, under the impression that the variables around Cale Makar essentially stay the same. And barring injury, you kind of know essentially like a range of where you could get with Cale Makar. The wild card in this is the Quinn Hughes factor, where what are the Canucks? What is Elias Pettersson? And how does the season unfold for them, given what we had just heard from Jim Rutherford, who answered some questions very honestly in the summer? So I think those things are the kind of the factors that play in here for Quinn Hughes, where like this makes sense why Cale Makar is favored the way he is against Quinn Hughes right now.
You know, it would be a wild card third on this one.
Who would that be?
Jack Hughes. Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, or Jack Hughes. Who has more points? Now, no one in the history of the New Jersey Devils, Colorado Rockies, Kansas City Scouts organization has ever had 100 points. Quinn Hughes hasn't had 100 points. Cale Makar hasn't had 100 points. They've all been close. Jack Hughes a couple of years ago had 99 points. Would have been the first New Jersey Devil ever to have 100 points. Jack Hughes stays healthy, he gets 100 points. Quinn Hughes stays healthy. Can he get 100 points? 76 points in 68 games last year for Quinn Hughes. Right?
Yeah.
Cale Makar, 92 points in 80. To me, that's
remember
like,
there was that
stretch
where there was that stretch, remember, where Quinn Hughes was playing like 30 minutes a night, and if he wasn't playing every shift, like the Canucks were not winning and did not have a chance. And you and I were coming on here being like, this guy, he's going to be hanging on for dear life if they get to the playoffs, and he will be the only reason that they get there.
He's just, by the end of the season, he's just going to be ribs and teeth. That's it. Like that. What's left of Quinn Hughes? A couple of ribs and some teeth. Like that's what's happened to Vancouver's number one defenseman. I don't know. To me, that's a pick 'em. That's just like stay healthy.
Yeah,
I do wonder. I do
agree.
wonder about Jack and 100 points though. And I know that shocks a lot of people when you say like the New Jersey Devils have never had a 100-point player, but it's true. Jack came so close, so cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would you say the I guess it would be hard to argue, but like the best years of the Devils franchise would have been the years that they were the most defensive, and they didn't.
100%.
I'm going to say this where it's not
100%.
right, but like they didn't
100%.
do anything. You know what I mean?
They didn't do
it's
anything.
like that makes sense. Like that's the best way I could put it right now. They didn't do anything. Where it was just like, we're just gonna like beat the shit out of you, make you really mad, and walk out of here and win 2-1 because our goalie's really good. We're unbelievable defensively. We've got awesome offensive players, but like we don't play offensive. We're not doing anything. That's a really disrespectful way to describe that team, by the way. I'm aware.
Brian Gianta's going to score 2 goals. Bobby Holik may get a shorty, and we're going to win 3-2.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, New Jersey Devils, baby. Okay, something for you, and something that I want to mention. So usually, I'm such an idiot. So usually what I do in as far as like hockey reading goes, I take July off. July is like the 1 month where I don't read any hockey books. I just I got to stop and I got to read something else. Like, Marek, there's more to like life than just like reading hockey books. So as the calendar is about to flip here to August, something I want to draw your attention to, and I want to mention my good buddy Richard Chung, who's going through some health issues right now, and looks like he's coming out the other side of it, which is great news. But I'm going to pick up a book that he actually gave me this year, and I've put off reading because I've had so many other things. you may want to read this somewhere down the road. The Pepper Kid, The Life and Times of Ken Randall, Hockey's Bad Hombre. So he played in the NHA, the National Hockey Association, and then the NHL, played on that first Toronto team that won the Stanley Cup in 1918. He was the first captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He wasn't tough. He was like just bluntly like dirty, like stick swinging, like assaulting. He got fined $35 by the league in like 1921, which at the time was pretty sizable. Who was the official? I think Lou Marsh was the official. And he brought a big bag of pennies, $35 worth of pennies, onto the ice in a bag and gave it to Lou Marsh and like dropped it on the ice. And they had to like go around and pick up pennies off the ice, totaling $35. Like Ken Randall, man. And he was like nuts and crazy. And his family believes that he was probably a victim of CTE, degenerative brain disease. He passed away when he was like 58 years old in 47. But fascinating character. Was paired with another guy who you should know on that Toronto Maple Leafs blue line by the name of Harry Cameron. Can you tell that I really want to do a history podcast? Harry Cameron, who was the first player to do what in the history of the NHL? Your Toronto team. Make something up fast, Zach.
Yeah, I was going to say, use a curved stick. I don't know.
That was Cy Denny, who was the first to use a curved stick. Everyone else thinks it's like Bobby Hull or maybe Andy Bathgate, Stan Mikita. No, it was Cy Denny. He was the first to record a Gordie Howe hat trick.
So why don't we name it after him?
I'm glad you asked that question. You know why? Because nobody did marketing better than the Howes. And the myth-making around Gordie. No one did it better than the Howes. And this is not to knock Gordie. This is like, I'm actually like, they did a great job of marketing Gordie Howe to the point where whenever I would, and whether he had something to promote or whatever, whenever I would interview Gordie Howe on the old Leafs Lunch show that I used to do with Bill Waters, one of the conditions of the interview was that, I think it was either twice or three times when you reset, you had to refer to Gordie Howe as Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe. Nobody did marketing like the Howes. Harry Cameron of your Toronto Hockey Club recorded the first Gordie Howe hat trick. Can
we come up with something for you? I'm going to do that because you know how like every now and then I set you up for shows that you go on, like when we go, you do a guest spot on something. I'm going to go and set it up, and I'm going to put in their request that the producer calls you to the producer that the hosts call you something when they introduce you. What do we have that be? Like what would that be? Mr. History, Jeff Marek.
Oh God, Mr. Annoying, pretentious hockey geek. Mr. Knew too much about hockey when he was a kid, so he stayed single for a lot of years. Marek. Because of all the time spent at the Hockey Hall of Fame, he was the man that women forgot. Jeff Marek. That guy?
The man that woman forgot. Yeah, that's a one too.
That's the winner.
Yeah, there you go. The man that woman forgot. I'm going to have them call you that on Barn Burner or something the next time you join them.
The man
Sakaris
women
and Price.
Forgot. Jeff Marek. All right, that's it for us. Thanks to Hart Levine for stopping by. Thanks to the great Steven Ellis, and thanks to the great Jet Greaves for stopping by the program today. Thank you, Zach. Thanks to everyone who was in the chat. I know it's tough just to sort of drop in here in the middle of the afternoon on a Wednesday. We'll try to come up with a more consistent schedule. But for everybody watching in the archive here on YouTube, thank you for the attention and the time. Ditto to everybody listening on your various podcast platforms, Apple Pods, Spotify, etc. I appreciate the time. Appreciate the thumbs up. Appreciate the faves and the subscriptions as well. We'll be back next week. I think Wednesday. I gotta stop giving out dates because they always change. Watch our socials, and we'll get the schedule in order. And to my buddy Richard, Good news that you're on the mend, my friend. That's it for us here today. Don't forget, tip your Zamboni driver on the way out. We'll talk to you soon. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.